And welcome to Advantage Radio Ministries here on Lift FM. The program is Second Chances. This is our weekly program where we're privileged to bring on people from all different walks of life that have unique experiences, things that they've been through, things that the Lord has helped them to get through and ultimately be victorious on the other side. Denise not only is a person that's going to share a little bit of her work with us through her book, but she'll tell us a little bit about things that she's been through in her life, and I'm sure this will be a wonderful program. Our guest is Denise Shick. The book we're going to talk about a little bit later on is Understanding Gender Confusion. And Denise, thank you so much for joining us here on Second Chances.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. Now, Denise, why don't you get us started off? Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you were born, and a little bit about your early years, childhood years, teenage years, things of that nature.
Sure. I was actually born in Hollywood, California.
Wow, nice place. I was just there not too long ago.
But my folks had moved back to Pennsylvania, and that's where I was raised and have spent most of my life. So that gives you a little bit about the country girl in me. And as far as what I do and who I am, what I'm about, all of this came from my own testimony of being a young girl at the age of 9 whose dad decided to share with her at this point of his desire to become a woman, and how that had reshaped my life for days and years to come. I would not realize the impact that would have on me personally. I really felt that I had lost my father that day, that it wasn't his desire to be a father, to be that dad role model. And in my mind, he couldn't be my mother because I already had a mother. And I really wanted a mom and a dad. So I had some emotional grieving that went on for a long period of my life, really. And as I started to mature, he became envious of what I was becoming, which was a woman. And so there was a lot of conflict and hurtful things that had happened in our home due to this. It wasn't just the anger or the resentment that had come at me, but he as well had started to wear my clothes, take them without my knowledge. When I started to date, more resentment had come directed towards me. And so it just was an unhealthy environment to grow up in. By the time I was 18, I actually thought that I would just join the Army to get out of the home. That was going to be my escape route. But instead, I fell in love with a Christian young man who's been my husband ever since graduation. And it was when I was 28 where my father had then at that point made the decision to leave our family to pursue the life as being a transgender person. And that's where the second part of my journey began, really through the grieving again, losing my dad in a more real way. And by the time I was 39, we had received the news that he had cancer. And I knew at that point that God was calling me, without a doubt, to go and talk with him, to forgive him once and for all, that my opportunity to do this was running out. And so it was through those last 6 months of his life that I began to understand at an adult level and learn more about the pain that he was in, at the same time sharing with him the pain that this had caused myself and my siblings and my mother as well. And it was a couple years after his death when my grandfather had passed away, where at that time I felt that I had that release to be able to follow the Lord in his calling to create the ministry Help for Families.
Understanding Gender Confusion, our guest. Denise, can you give us, obviously you kind of shared there, kind of the struggles that you went through just in that little period of time, just to kind of give us a little summary, but give us an idea of exactly what you mean by gender confusion and exactly what it is.
Yeah, sure. So when an individual really is in great distress over their biological gender, they don't feel like they fit in the female body, or if they are born female, they don't feel as if they fit in that female body. So they feel that they're really in the wrong body. For a man, it's feeling very uncomfortable, the distress of it, even in young boys, that desire that comes about, that they really believe their reality is being the opposite gender. Their brain is right, but their bodies are wrong.
Mm. One of the things that I got to imagine that a lot of Christians or people that just don't really have a lot of knowledge of this gender confusion probably struggle with is when you run into someone that maybe grew up with, and at that point they were a male or a female, but then you see them years later and you realize that person is now living as a opposite sex member. What is the best way for people to kind of react when they see this person that they haven't seen in all these years, that have basically switched sexes in their own mind?
Yeah, that would be very difficult, especially if they were not, forewarned to have an idea that that would happen. I can't imagine really the what their thoughts, and how our body language, how our facial expressions, So hopefully they would have a little forewarning of what's happened. A lot of times this happens to high school friends, and they find out years later that high school student friend has had sex reassignment surgery, or is now just living as the opposite gender. So obviously the one thing we don't want to do is to be able to create a shock, a discomfort where they're going to feel unloved, that they feel like they're any less than because of what they've done, because the individual himself has been through a lot of emotional distress, and they need to feel connected. They need to be loved, just like all of us do. But to be able to minister, you really need to be able to reach their heart, and for them to know that you are a trusted and safe person to talk to.
Mm. Now, in your own case, when your dad first made it known to you that, he was wanting to really be the opposite sex, obviously, did you still continue to call him father and things like that, or did you talk to him differently that way?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always had, clear up until the time of his death. There wasn't a time when he had left our family to really pursue and to live this life as a woman that I ever called him anything other than my father in the male pronouns. In the hospital, the nurses and other medical professionals, and I suppose due to their regulations and standards, they would address him by Becky or she or her, but I would in return say, "You mean my dad, Harold, he, or him?" I felt that those around him were continuing in this delusion of who he was, and it was really hard to be there in the environment in the hospital room when even friends would call him by that. But I was determined for him to know who he has been to not just myself, to my mother, to my siblings, to ever since his birth. He was created a male. And so that was something that I was really a stickler about.
Mm. In his final days, did he have regrets? Did he give his life to the Lord? Things like that?
Yeah, he had regrets that he had shared with my mother. It was actually the last few days of his life where his words were, "This did not give me the fulfillment that I thought that it would." And it was so sad at this point for him to realize what all he had lost. 13 years had gone by since he had communication with any of his children. He missed the opportunity of seeing his grandchildren grow up. There were tears that were shed between he and my siblings and myself as we got to share heart to heart. And no matter what we went through as children, we loved him, even as angry as we may have been, or me personally, the resentment for what I had gone through. The truth is that I never stopped loving him, but I think that was part of my journey that the Lord had to take me to realize that this hard heart really had a softness for him, for the pain that he had endured in his life that had brought this struggle to where he was.
Did he ultimately accept Jesus in the end?
Not that I am aware of, and I say that with hope that he had, but he was actually in a coma the last day that we were there before he passed away. I did get to speak to him on my concern for his eternity and those issues. He assured me that he was in a good place. However, where my concerns was the type of church that he was attending, which was not one that spoke scriptural-wise on these type of issues.
Transgendered individuals, gay right advocates use courts, politics to achieve, special rights. You see it all over the place. They're turn on any major newscast, and that topic will probably come up in that half-hour broadcast. Why is all this energy and effort being put out there to achieve these special rights for transgendered, gay rights, things of that nature?
I think part of it really is to create a culture where gender is fluid. It is up to man to decide who he will be, instead of coming along with the respect of who God had created them to be, and really the creativity that he had done in their design, some rebellion. But the culture that we are creating with the younger generation, there's disrespect. There really is no God in so much of the culture. And with that, it's up to man to do and be who he or she says that they will be, to have relationships with the same gender, to be their own creator, in a sense, and shaking their fist at God in rebellion.
What are some of the natural, or actually the dangers of the hormonal treatment, and how does it interfere with natural biological chemistry, all these hormone treatments?
You can't expect to put hormones into our bodies and not have it interfere with the biological chemistry without any consequences. For instance, a girl that is prescribed hormones is at risk for bone growth delay, which then actually requires growth-stimulating drugs to assist them in achieving an acceptable male height. For a female to male, it's increased cardiovascular health, increased cholesterol, decreased insulin sensitivity. And for the male to female, there is a significant increase in their body weight, total body weight, which sometimes they have found that it is a decrease in their insulin as well. And that has actually led to diabetes too. There's some cases where it's actually shown an increase in the blood pressure, that it has increases of 20-fold of blood clots. So we continue to see the dangers of what we're doing in this. For adolescents, we're giving children, adolescents, these drugs without the studies, without the time, and promoting such a dangerous situation where they are giving these drugs with the parents thinking that everything's okay, that these are not going to hurt, when in fact both genders actually face a higher risk of cancers that's associated with hormonal therapies. And hormones themselves are a drug interferes, and so there's an increase of anger, aggressiveness, all of these type of things. It's not as safe as, taking a glass of water and an aspirin. So their moods as well are affected when taking hormone treatments. And I don't think the public realizes the dangers for the individual that's taken these type of medicines.
Mm-hmm. We're visiting with Denise Shick. She is the author of Understanding Gender Confusion. You're also the director of Help for Families. And Denise, if someone would like to find out more about you, your ministry, your books, obtaining a copy of the book, what does one need to do?
They can certainly go to our website, which is helpforfamilies.com. That's help with the number 4families.com. And they would be able to find our website with, real stories of folks that have struggled or folks that have gone through the sex reassignment surgery. There's also medical information on there and resources that will lead them to all of our books as well.
Okay. Now, you say because of the breakdown in the family that many young men are fleeing their masculinity. What do you mean by that?
In regards to, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. You say because of the breakdown in families that many young men today are fleeing their masculinity. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think because of what I have found myself is because of the situations in their home environment that to be like a dad that has been abusive towards the mother, whether it's physically or emotionally or verbally. Some of them have said to me, I don't want to be anything like my dad. So they look at masculinity in a negative way, in an ungodly way, and they think that by being a man, that equals being like my dad. Where other ones that have been abused by another father figure. And so whatever the circumstances is that the individual, the youngster, has perceived masculinity to be, they're wanting to run from it and become, the feminine that seems safer, seems more comforting. It might be where the feminine role in their life or mother that they see is receiving the affection that they want. Perhaps the father is really hard on them and demanding of them with too high of expectations. So they can look at the feminine role as a safer gender, a safer role to become.
Mm. Obviously, when you talk about sickness, you talk about problems, you talk about disorder, there's always the root cause. So what is the root cause of gender identity disorder?
That is a really good question, and I don't mean to say this lightly, but it is not a one-size-fits-all. For some individuals, as we just discussed, it can be their perceivement of their father. Some have been emotionally, physically, or sexually abused, while others, it is just the way that they feel about themselves because maybe they're not as strong as dad, or they're not the football player that their brother is, so they have a weaker image of themselves as well. For the female, some of the individuals that I know will say that they didn't want to be like mom. They had perceived their mom weak because of the relationships that they had seen their mothers in the home. That if a male had harmed them sexually or emotionally, they then felt that if they were a man, they would be more in control, and therefore nobody would hurt them again. So those are just a few of the things that I have been told.
Mm. You suggest that there is hope for people who are gender confused. What are some of the answers for those who are looking to get set free and get on the road to recovery?
Yeah, it's like taking stock of what's in our closet, and we talk about that in this book. We've all got things in our closet, emotional memories, personal vows, whatever it is. So for an individual that's struggling with this, take a look at what's in your closet there. What are some of the hurts from your past, your rejections, that have not been brought to the surface to be dealt with, to bring you some healing? For an individual that's struggling in this, more than likely, there is actually more than one. There are several obvious reasons that they struggle with this, and sometimes it actually could be something with a diagnosis as well as personality disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. These are other things that the person could struggle with, bipolar, and with even diagnosis of that, there are still other underlining issues that add to this additionally. So to be able to respond openly and honestly with somebody that is trustworthy to them, that is willing to walk this journey out with them as they seek healing and counseling, much time in prayer with them to help them to identify any self-judgments, personal vows, or unforgiveness that they've held against family members that might be actually hindering their healing process because of how they've been hurt. To establish healthy bonding, through natural and social activities with those of the same gender. So often that is what they are lacking, and what they are desiring is to be able to connect with that same gender, peers of the same gender.
Mm. Something else you state in the book, that the suicide rate for those who go through sex reassignment surgery is extremely high. Why do you think that the suicide rate is so high in those cases?
Because the individual will have sex reassignment surgery believing that when they see themselves in that illusion of that other gender body, that everything will be taken care of. They will feel better. But what they discover is after the surgery, they're not feeling better. They still have not dealt with all of these issues that we're talking about, and so many more that are down in their heart. That has hurt them deeply. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a cut and adding salt to it and not understanding why it's still stinging. We can fix our outsides with any cosmetic surgery, but that's not taking care of what's inside the heart and soul of the person. We need to start with what's on the inside and let that healing start from their core and to come outward.
We're visiting with Denise Shick. We're talking about the book Understanding Gender Confusion. In your section entitled Steps Toward Healing, you advise strugglers to take stock of what is in their emotional closet. Why is that so important?
Because that will help them to address why they are hurting. Why is it that I am trying to escape my femininity or my masculinity? Is it from a past experience of what's happened? If not, is it because I don't have a high enough esteem of who I am? One of the things that, and I don't mean to go off on a rabbit trail, but we can assume that every man is a football player or a hunter, rough and tumble. And many times that's not it. They're an office worker. They might have soft hands and skin, but that doesn't mean that they're any less masculine. And sometimes individuals can actually feel less than because they're not, they don't feel equal to the rough and tumble type of a guy. So again, addressing our past and where we've been hurt, or what has brought us to reject our gender. That's where the healing will begin.
Well, obviously, the number one thing that God can do is heal. Whether you're suffering from gender confusion, whether you're suffering from just never asking Him to be the Lord of your life, and some people just need that opportunity. So, Denise, there are people that are probably listening to this program that could be suffering from gender confusion, could be at the end. They could be one of those people that, are at the end and thinking about suicide, things of that nature, those extremes. But we want to give those people hope. We want to give them the opportunity to be saved, to be set free, so they could have life and have it more abundantly by asking Jesus Christ into their heart. Would you lead us in a word of prayer?
Thank you so much. I'd love to. Dear Father, we ask you, Lord, as your children, that you would come alongside of the families and the individuals that understand this journey, that understand the troubled heart, the tears, Lord, the many tears that are shed, that they would come to a place where they're able to take truth, and with that to have portions of love and your grace and patience to help them throughout this, that facing the most difficult, most painful situations in our life is far from easy, Lord. You understand that. But we know that you are able to take these things and to bring healing. Just as a butterfly that is born from the cocoon, Lord, the caterpillar that stayed in the cocoon and then comes out beautiful. And Lord, you have created life to be beautiful and individuals to be beautiful as well. In your name we pray. Amen.
Our guest on Second Chances has been Denise Shick. She is the author of the book entitled Understanding Gender Confusion. Denise, one more time, if they'd like to learn more about your organization, Help for Families, website, way they can obtain a copy of the book, learn more about this situation, gender confusion, this problem. What's the best ways to learn those informations?
Yep. That's www.helpforfamilies.com, help with the number 4families.com, and our resources and a whole lot of other information is there on the website for folks.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Our guest has been, God bless you too. Our guest has been Denise Shick. Understanding Gender Confusion is the book. Tune in next week for more Second Chances right here from Advantage Radio Ministries on Lift FM.